We have some breaking news out of New York City. The governor and the mayor announcing a curfew for tonight. And joining us now is the governor of New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo. Governor, I watched the pictures as we've talked about our state, our city. Talk about why this curfew was necessary and what your concerns are about what might be ahead of us tonight.
Thank you, Nicole. Look, there's no doubt that what the president is trying to do here is turn the attention to the looters rather than the point of the protesters, which is genuine outrage. I mean, you look at what happened with Mr. Floyd, you have to be outraged, and it's not just Mr. Floyd in an isolated situation. It's been years and years of the same situation. You can go back to Rodney King, Amadou Diallo, Eric Garner. It's a long list. They want to make this about looting and criminals rather than the killing. And that's what they're trying to do. In New York, we did have large protests, and we do have people who are, I think, exploiting the protests. And there's no doubt that there are some people who came out and did looting, criminal activity. You have some disrupting organizations that are seizing upon the moment. And we want to make sure that order is maintained, and we're putting in place a curfew. Mayor de Blasio and I spoke about it today, a curfew for tonight at 11 o'clock, and having more police on the streets, double what we had, New York City had last night, to try to make sure that order is maintained.
Governor, your every move has been watched the world over as you've navigated our country's coronavirus epicenter. And I don't think it's an overstatement to worry that all of the people that you've fought hard to protect from the first wave are the ones who are susceptible from a potential second wave. First responders, police, and communities of color. How do you protect them, not just from the potential of violence, from their grief and their rage over the state of relations between Black communities, Black Americans, Black New Yorkers, and police, and protect them from this deadly virus?
Nicole, as usual, you ask the right question. I wish I had the answer. We have made such progress in New York. You know, we had the worst case in the country. We had the worst case on the globe at one time. We went from the highest number of deaths, 800 per day, down to the lowest number today in just 50 days. And it was a hell of a 50 days, but it was only 50 days. And I am afraid that these protests actually can increase the spread of the virus. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. The only good news is we are already at the lowest infection rate that we've had. We did 50,000 tests yesterday in the state. We only had 1,000 positives. So hopefully the infection rate is down so low that people were not spreading it. But we're starting to reopen New York City a week from today. If the infection did spread, you won't see it for about 2 weeks. So I just hope it doesn't compound the situation, because so many New Yorkers worked so hard to get here. So many gave their lives to get here. I hope we didn't endanger it with these protests.
Governor, I spoke to our mutual friend, Chris Christie, over the weekend, and he said that the economic despair that people are feeling in a lot of these cities is contributing to the hopelessness and the rage and the exasperation and the just despair with the state of all of it, with our inability to protect our citizens from a deadly virus, our inability to protect people's economic security, their life savings in the case of small business owners, and our inability to protect Black Americans in particular from police. What do you have to say to people who are feeling hopeless?
Hey, look, it's right. It's right. And I said on day one, I stand with the protesters. I believe this is a moment in history, Nicole, where we can actually galvanize and make change. And there are forces coming together here. Let's be honest. It's not a coincidence that this is in the middle of the COVID crisis. The poor paid the highest price for this COVID situation. They were essential workers. Their communities had a higher infection rate. They're living in public housing. You can't socially distance on an elevator in public housing. They spent they were living paycheck to paycheck, and now they're destitute. They paid the highest price. They always pay the highest price. And it has just exploded, the latent injustice and racism in this nation. I said today, my father did the Tale of Two Cities speech, 1984 at the Democratic Convention. It was true then, it's true now. And let's make this a moment of progressive reform and focus on a real agenda going forward.
People don't... The divisions are there. The divisions are being exploited by this president, by the White House. The divisions, a lot of people feel, are exploited in some corners of the media. But most people don't want to feel divided. What can people do? What are you urging citizens of New York to do tonight?
Look, tonight I'm saying be smart. You know, we talk about New York tough. Part of being New York tough is being smart. We have to be smart. You want to protest, don't be used in the protest. Don't be exploited. Don't make it a mask for criminal activity or for extremist organizations. If you're going out, wear a mask, socially distance, don't put your life at risk. That's short term. Long term, use this moment. You look in history, Nicole, when did change come? Change came when the people insisted on change. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, Storm King environmental movement. When did I pass gun control? Right after Sandy Hook. When did I pass marriage equality? Change comes when the people demand it. They're demanding it. Finally, let's have a full agenda. Let's talk about investigation of police abuse, no chokeholds, nationwide standard for undue force. Let's talk about funding of education and equal funding in education. Let's talk about affordable housing. Let's talk about a child poverty agenda. But let's use the moment constructively.
Let me ask you one more question. You mentioned your father's speech, The Tale of Two Cities. Today we have a tale of two autopsies. The family of George Floyd has just released the results of a private autopsy that show that George Floyd, based on their autopsy, died from asphyxiation from both the knee on his neck as well as the body weight of the other officers who prevented his lungs from expanding and taking in air. Do you believe that the charges against Mr. Chauvin are appropriate? Should they be stronger? And do you believe the other officers should be charged?
Look, I'm a former prosecutor. I don't like to second-guess prosecutors because sometimes they have facts that others don't have. But if they have other facts, they should tell us what the other facts are, because we have a video, and everyone saw the video, and there are a number of videos. And yes, I think the other officers should be charged. And if they have countervailing evidence, they should produce it, because the people have a right to know.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.